shoes, and a lot of shoes obviously made overseas, none of them made in the USA, right? Now, would you say that the Sperry is the #1 shoe in this school?
Yes.
Okay. So for the sake of argument, I'm going to teach you a little bit about tariffs and how they affect not just our economy, but the world economy. All right. Oh, that's for me. Okay. What's that? It's a very bad drawing of the United States. What's this? England. Okay. Capital. Great Britain. London. Okay. Now, for the sake of argument, let's say that Sperry's are made in London. Okay. Imported to the United States. Yes? Now, how much did you pay for your Sperry's? $120? Holy crap. Okay.
That's not scary.
What are they?
Uggs.
See.
Quite nice.
120 for those. What do you got? How much you pay? 100? Any idea? 90?
86.
Hey, get off your phone. Seriously?
Oh my god. Take it
Don't
away.
put it under the bag. Put it in the bag.
Hey.
Otherwise, it's going to go to the office.
Office,
Freaking A, dude.
office.
Seriously? Hey, knock that off. Now, all right, let's say on average, okay, we import these Sperry's for $80 a pair. Okay, that's what they sell it for. I got students in other classes say 60, 70, 80, 100, so forth. Okay, now let's say there's an American shoe company, yep, here in Nebraska called New Balance. What kind of shoes does New Balance make?
Tennis shoes.
Okay, so New Balance makes tennis shoes, and they want to get into the casual dress shoe market, like Sperry. They see a lot of people are wearing shoes like that and say, we want to get in on that market. Now, New Balance can only make a quality leather shoe like that with American labor. They're going to have to charge about $90 a pair. Okay? Now, in order to have New Balance compete with Sperry out of London, we're going to put a tariff on Sperry, raise the price to $100 a pair. Now, we may have just priced some of you out of the market there. So people will look to New Balance first, quality shoe made in America for $90 or an import for $100. You get to choose. You think New Balance is going to take some of the market share of Sperry?
Yes.
Probably. So what happens back at the factory here in London when they sell fewer shoes in America?
Lay off people.
You're going to lay off people. You're going to lay off workers. Okay? You're going to cut wages. So people here have less money to buy goods with. Now, out here in Silicon Valley, California, there's a company called Dell. What do they make? Computer. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but people in London love Dell computers. So Dell sells a lot of computers there. But there's a problem. With the layoffs at the Sperry factory, people have less money to buy Dell computers. And so when Dell can't sell as many computers, what happens at the factory here in California? They lay people off. People have less money to buy New Balance or Sperry's or anything else. So these tariffs have an impact. And it's almost unique to the United States, guys, because we, you and I, are consumers. The United States consumes, and its people consume more than any other country in the world per capita. You know that, right? We're consumers. We live in a materialistic society, okay, and we buy stuff. When we stop buying stuff from other people, it hurts their economy, and then in return, they can't afford to buy our stuff, which hurts everybody's economy now, right? And then the Europeans get ticked off at us, and they put tariffs on our stuff, which means nobody's buying anything from anybody. This is going to be one of the causes of the Great Depression. So when Donald Trump comes into office and says, we're going to put tariffs on Chinese goods, okay, listen, between the United States and China, we have a trade deficit of $500 billion. What that means is China, which has 1.3 billion people, the U.S. has 0.3 billion people. So they have 1 billion people more than us. Follow me? We buy $500 billion more of Chinese goods than they buy of ours. That's a trade deficit of $500 billion a year. So Trump comes in and says, look, we're going to start putting tariffs on Chinese imports, okay, until they start buying more of our stuff. What's our biggest export in the United States? It's a big one, but not the biggest. Not even close.
Wheat, guns.
Kansas. We live in Kansas.
Wheat.
Food.
It's farm
Yes.
products.
Yes. Agriculture. That's our biggest export. We also export aircraft, like Boeing. Yes. And some automobiles. Okay. When I was in China, I did see quite a few American cars. You see American cars in Vietnam?
Yeah.
Ford? And in Europe, they sell Fords too. But not the same Fords they sell here. Probably small Fords. Okay? I mean, Ford sells some small cars here, like the Ford Focus. But they have even smaller cars that they sell in Europe and Asia. Okay? But in China, they like the bigger ones. Okay? Like the SUVs, American SUVs.
Why would anyone
Okay.
want to drive?
An SUV?
Yes. It's giant. It's hard to drive.
Like a Ford Explorer? Not giant.
No. I'm thinking like SUV.
You're talking about Suburban?
Yes.
Yeah, or Tahoe or something like
Is that what
that.
you're talking about?
They're easy to drive. I think the bigger the car, the easier it is.
What the heck?
Get out of my way. Well, and then you sit up high. So you can see, not only behind you, you got the big side view mirrors, you can see in front of you. You ever had to stop really fast because cars were backing up? If you're in a truck, you can see that happening ahead of you. I hate driving cars. I'll never drive anything but a truck again.
King of Road.
With a V8. We're gonna go. We hit the gas. Okay, can you guys explain this to me on the test?
Yeah.
So when Trump came in, guys, this is actually going to be a cause of the Depression. So people like Trump, don't do this. Don't do this. You're going to cause a depression. They're going to retaliate with tariffs on our stuff. Well, hell, they're not buying anything from us anyways. Who cares if they retaliate with tariffs? It's going to hurt them more. It's going to hurt us. Maybe China will step up. Okay, right? And so China had just started to agree to buy a whole hell of a lot more food from the United States, and then the freaking Chinese let the virus out. Did they not? Where did the virus come from? Wuhan, China. Yes? Was it produced in a laboratory there? Or did it come from bats? Come on. And you know who funded the research on this virus?
Tell me.
We did. The taxpayers of this freaking country. Okay? You guys know who Anthony Fauci is? Okay? he was the one that was helping fund this research in Wuhan, China. Okay? More and more about this is coming out. Do they want it to come out? No, they don't want it to come out. Okay? Very unlikely that this actually happened from somebody eating a freaking bat in a wet market in Wuhan, China. Chances are it was developed in a lab. They were experimenting with how to get a virus to spread faster. So they created the proteins, and it escaped the lab in human beings and spread around the world. Okay? Yeah. So the guy that helped fund the research is in charge. You can't make this stuff up. Okay. So I gave you a hint about something that you might want to write about you're going to have to write about on the test. If you're paying attention. Okay. So we're still talking about Warren G. Harding and his domestic policy. He had 4 things. He wanted to raise tariffs, he wanted to cut taxes, cut government spending, and help veterans of World War I and help farmers. Okay? So we're on number 2, taxes. Okay? Did you just ban me? Did you say I'm awake, man?
Yeah. Didn't he say at the beginning that's one of the things
He was
you cannot
sleeping.
leave?
No, I wasn't. I was listening the whole time. Yeah. We were talking about
Give him a demerit.
how the Wuhan stuff, and then
Oh my god.
those dude paid for the research, and how like some proteins added to the virus, and then escaped the lab, and then got it for him.
It's like some out of a science fiction novel, man, right? Yeah. What do they say about today's science fiction? Yes, tomorrow's reality. Okay? All right, let's talk about taxes. Who likes taxes? Mellon. This guy's the Secretary of the Treasury. And after the war, he says, we need to cut these taxes. This guy's the highest tax rate during World War I. 77%. So if you made $100,000 in 1918, 77% went to the government. You got to keep 23,000. That was during the war. Okay? The war's over, they lowered them to 65%. Still, they're like, come on. Why am I working so hard? Taking more than half my money. So Mellon says we want to cut the wealthy tax rate from 60 to 50%. So I work half the year for myself, half the year for Uncle Sam. Okay? Now, Mellon actually wanted it to go to 25%, which is going to happen in 1924. The wealthy tax rate will be 25%. Do you know what it is today? So if you're an individual and you make $250,000 today, okay? If you're a married couple, it may be a little bit higher than 250, like you might get to like 300,000 you're paying. That's the top tax bracket. Okay? Now if you're working and you're poor, you know what you pay in federal income taxes? 49% of Americans pay 0 federal income taxes. Now, you guys, how many of you guys had a job this summer or working right now? Okay. So when you get your refund, right, you get most of the tax money back. What you don't get back is your Social Security. 6.2% goes to Social Security. And then Medicare, which is like 3.4%, government keeps that. The rest you're getting back because you're poor. Okay? You get almost all of that back. Does that make sense? So people that are older than you, say 22 years old, and they're poor but working, same thing. Government keeps that 6.2% and that 3.4%. The rest of it gets refunded back. which means you pay zero in federal income tax. You pay Social Security tax, Medicare tax, but no federal. You follow me? Okay, 49% of Americans pay zero. Okay, so we have a progressive income tax. Now, Mellon didn't want to lower the tax rate for lower middle class folks. But guys, Congress has to get elected. Are there more lower middle class voters or rich voters? Lower middle. So they're going to cut taxes for everybody because they want to get reelected. You understand? Yes? Okay. So they will lower taxes across the board. Okay, guys, we are in a depression. After the war, there's a depression. How do you get out of a depression? You get economic activity. You get growth in the economy. And so Mellon's idea was cut taxes. Guess what you have in your pocket? More money. What are you going to do with that money? You can spend it. What else? Save it. Invest it. Okay, those are the three things you can do when you have more money in your paycheck. Yes? Now, if you spend it, does that create economic activity for other people? Yeah. Okay. If you invest it in businesses, does that provide more capital for businesses to reinvest in their companies and grow their companies? Which creates more what? Jobs and wealth. Okay. And if you save it, it allows you to buy, larger ticket items down the road. Yes? Okay. Or pay debts and stuff like that, which is also good for the economy when people pay their debts. Okay, so listen, this is called supply side economics, or what some people refer to as trickle down economics. So you cut the rich guy's taxes, okay? You cut Warren Buffett or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates' taxes, okay? Bill Gates decides to buy a yacht with his tax savings. Rich son of a man. Yeah, whatever. Did somebody have to cut down the trees for the deck of that dock? Did somebody have to form the fiberglass for the hull of that yacht? How many people do you think worked on that for a yacht? Quite a few. Okay, so you got the lumberjack, you got the people building the ship, you've got somebody who's going to have to be a captain on the yacht, you're going to have a cook on the yacht, you have people that repair the yacht, you got people that work at the dock slip where the dock is, the yacht is docked, right? You're creating, so you take that tax cut, give the wealthy person more money, they spend it, and other people benefit from it. That's called supply side or trickle down economics. Okay? The other type of economics, which we more often do when we have a depression or a recession, is called Keynesian economics. This is where the government spends more money. The government runs deficits, just prints money, gets it into circulation. That spurs economic activity and helps the economy grow. The problem with that is the national debt now is at 28 trillion. That's Keynesian economics, where the government spends, not the individual. So the problem here, guys, is when the Depression hits in 1930, taxes are already low. And this is low for wealthy people worldwide, comparatively. Today, the wealthy tax rate in France is 75%. Now, if you're super wealthy and you live in France, instead of paying that 75%, what could you do?
And give it to organizations.
You might be able to, you have some tax deductions, like charities and stuff like that. Or are you rich enough to just freaking leave France? And then they get none of your money. Where are you going to go? What is the least taxed nation in the world? No. Mexico is the lowest taxes in the world. Okay? Other Central American countries like Costa Rica have low taxes. That's a place, one of the places a lot of American expats, which you call expatriates, they used to live here and move out of the country and take their money with them. They go to Costa Rica. Now you can go to Australia, but that's expensive to live there. Okay? You go to New Zealand, it's expensive to live there. Okay? Costa Rica is kind of the favored place. There's a lot of Americans have relocated to Costa Rica. Okay? It's cheap. So like if you save, $3 or $4 million, you're like, dude, I'm out. Going to Costa Rica, I can live on that the rest of my life. And the U.S. isn't getting my tax money anymore. People will leave. They'll go somewhere else. Okay? Now, our taxes are in the middle when it comes to internationally in the United States. Joe Biden would like to increase this on the wealthy for sure. Okay, we'll see what happens. Okay, so yeah, this is actually going to help. I mean, we're going to see the 20s. We're going to see a boom. We're going to get out of that depression, and guys, we're going to go. Okay, as a nation, we're going to grow immensely. All right. So the third thing that Harding wanted to do was help veterans. Okay. All right, pay attention. This is called the Adjusted Compensation Act. It has a nickname. This is the actual formal name, Adjusted Compensation. The nickname is the bonus bill. Okay. So Burns, what's another term for the Adjusted Compensation Act? Lily, the bonus bill is another term for the Adjusted Compensation Act. Okay, good thing to remember.
Gonna be on the test.
Hands. Okay, now this is to help our veterans of World War I. Okay, and this is how it works. It is an insurance policy. Okay, so if you served in the military for 365 days in the United States at home, you got $1 a day towards this insurance policy, right? That's $365. Okay, if you went overseas for a year during the war, you got extra combat pay towards your insurance. And this equals $456.25. Okay, you add those two together, your insurance policy is worth $821.25. Now, the problem with this, which would be great for veterans if they got this money right here, that's a lot of money in 1920. A lot of money, okay? It doesn't mature until 1945. You can't get this money until 1945. Okay? But what you could do is borrow up to 25% of it. You guys know how to do that, right? We'll just make this a division problem. Okay? And we come up with about $205. Oops. $205 and some change. Yeah? Now in 1920, 24, could you take $205, get set up in a 1-bedroom apartment, buy a new set of clothes to go out and look for a job? Yes, you could. Okay, today you couldn't do that on $200, but back then you could do that for sure. Yes? So many of our veterans will borrow against this insurance policy to get that money, because we were in a depression, guys, after the war. So people are hurt. Okay, vets are coming back, can't find jobs, so forth. So now this is going to come back up again later on. We'll talk about the bonus bill, because when the depression hits and like 25% of the population loses their job, veterans are going to want their money, and it's going to get ugly. Okay, it's going to get ugly. All right, so we will come back to this bonus bill a little bit later on. Okay, now Harding and Coolidge are conservatives. They don't like to spend the government's money. It's your money. They don't like to spend it. So they vetoed this. They said that's too much money. Okay, but Congress overrode the presidential veto with a 2/3 majority in both houses. So you had Democrats and Republicans voting in favor of helping our veterans, which usually is the case. When Democrats and Republicans don't agree on much, they just don't. When it comes to our veterans, usually there is consensus, there's bipartisanship, where they will work together. Okay? Hallelujah, right? Those people that serve for our country, willing to put their lives at risk for us, should we not take care of them? Huh? I think so. And I think that's the feeling of most Americans. Okay, now, next thing. war debts. Okay, now this can be a little bit confusing, guys, so I did a really cool infographic so it would explain it for you, okay? And this may be something you might be writing about on the test, okay? Because this is going to be one of the causes of the Great Depression, like tariffs, okay? So, during the war, World War I, the United States is going to help our allies. Remember, we don't get into World War I until 1917. It starts in 1914. Okay? So we are going to help build, like bombs and shells and bullets and guns and that sort of thing and ship them over to our allies during the war while we're not involved. So that stuff we're building for them, that's good for us because it's creating jobs here, right? But they got to pay us for it. Now, during the war, we're not going to make them pay. But when the war's over, hey, allies, you owe us for what we lent you during the war. You follow me? They owe us. They borrowed the money. Okay? Then the war's over. Okay? Germany, which gets blamed for the war. You guys remember the Treaty of Versailles? Yeah. Right? That ends the war. Was the United States part of the Treaty of Versailles?
Yes.
The answer to that is no. We had a separate peace with Germany. Okay, that's important because the Allies, Britain and France, they're going to punish Germany for starting the war. And so Germany's going to be forced to pay big time at the tune of $33 billion in reparations. This is to repair the damage caused because of the war. Now, does Germany have $33 billion laying around? No, we don't have $33 billion. The United States doesn't have that kind of money. Where are they going to come up with this? Well, one thing they can do is just start printing German marks. What happens to the value of the German mark if you start printing it? Yeah,
Inflation.
which is going to cause major economic problems for Germany. So the nice people that we are, the United States, sees Germany in a pickle here. Okay? So we're going to try and help out the Germans, even though we were just fighting them a year before. So we're going to give some post-World War I loans to Germany. Now, like I said, we don't have $33 billion. We're going to loan them something to about $2 billion. So Germany's going to take the money we give them. Okay? Trying to help them out. They're going to give that money to the Allies. The Allies are going to turn around and give us the money that we loaned to Germany back to us. Nobody's getting paid. Only Finland will end up paying us back. Okay? Now, we're going to try and work with the Europeans and say, look, guys, you got to pay us back. Coolidge said they borrowed the money, didn't they? Okay. When Hoover's elected in 1928, he says to the Europeans, he says, look, for 1 year, a moratorium. You don't have to pay any of our loans back. Just get your financial houses in order and then start paying us back in 29. Okay? That didn't work either. Now, as far as Germany's part, I'm teaching this about 10 years ago. And I read an article online that says Germany in 2010 makes its final payment to Great Britain on this $33 billion in 2010. Germany paid it all back. Well, not back. They paid all the reparations. It took them till 2010. That's crazy, man. You know what I mean? This is from 1918 to 2010. Okay? All this merry-go-round of debt, nobody's getting paid back. Okay? And when the Depression hit, we just forgave those loans. We just said, okay, forget it. Forget it. You don't have to pay us back. Okay? But Germany did their part. Okay? So what this means is, guys, countries were consumed by debt, and they couldn't really get their own financial houses in order, which led to problems, guys. and will help lead to the Second World War. All right, war deaths. Nice infographic there. All right, let's turn to something more fun. Okay, we're gonna keep it cool. Now, I have the death of Harding. We talked about how he died in San Francisco, right, with an enlarged heart. Did I talk about that? Yeah, they brought him by train across the country. Okay, Coolidge is the vice president when Harding died, right? Right? We need to know that. Now, where is Coolidge from? No, that's where Harding's from. Is that a state yet? Yeah, it is, but he's not from there. Okay, this is the kind of stuff on a test that's going to be helpful to know. Like if you know Coolidge is from Massachusetts, because he's the guy that called in the National Guard when the Boston police went on strike. Remember that? Then you'll be able to answer the question. Okay? So this type of stuff you need to know. All right, so Coolidge is from Massachusetts. Now, his dad has a family farm in rural Massachusetts. There is rural Massachusetts like there's rural Kansas, yes? Now, when Harding dies, Coolidge is out at the family farm. There's no phone, like they can't call him. So in the middle of the night, there's a knock on the door. Just Coolidge and his dad. His mom's passed away, they're out at the farm. Knock on the door, it's the telegraph delivery guy. Mr. Coolidge, Vice President, I have a telegraph for you. They read it, it says President Harding has died in San Francisco. It's like, oh crap. Well, when I get up in the morning, I'll head to DC in his Model T. Okay? But guys, we don't have a president. So about 2 hours later, middle of the night, there's a knock on the door. It's a telegraph delivery guy. This is the oath of office, and you need to become president. You need to take the oath of office, like now. Okay? Guys, you got to have a judge or somebody like that, somebody to make it official. Okay? Justice of the peace, or do you guys know what a notary is?
I don't want you to sign.
Like you got to have like an official document. A notary can watch you sign it, put a stamp on it. It's official. Coolidge's father is a notary, but you got to have a witness. President Coolidge is going to be sworn in on a family Bible, okay, under candlelight by his father, and the witness is the telegraph delivery guy. That's how Coolidge became president.
That's really cool.
It is cool. When JFK was assassinated, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, took the oath of office on Air Force 2, which was the vice president's plane. As soon as he took the oath, became Air Force 1. President's plane. Okay. All right. So Harding's dead. We're going to keep it cool with Coolidge. They called him Silent Cal because he didn't like to talk. Okay. One guy said Coolidge opened his mouth and moths flew out because he never opened his mouth. Okay. Now, new products for living. This is a jazz age. Guys, there were 7 million cars on the roads in 1918, and the roads were awful. Awful. Okay. By 1922, we produced 2 million cars that year alone. In 1929, 5 million cars were produced. Okay, most of those in Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan became one of the richest cities in the world. What happened? It went bankrupt about 8 years ago. Now, cars. You guys remember when you had learner's permits? And to have an adult in the car? How dreadful was that? What about when that first time, when you were getting in the car and you didn't have to have an adult with you? You drove away from the house. Remember that feeling of freedom, that sense of freedom? Because if you wanted the windows down, you could put them down. If you wanted the music loud, you could play it loud. You could drive wherever you want. You know what I mean? That's freedom. And guys, we love the automobile in this country. You go to Europe, not nearly as many people drive. A lot of people don't know how to drive. A lot of people in New York City don't drive. Okay? But out here, we love our cars or trucks. Right? If you look at automobile history, it's kind of interesting. You go through these Model T stuff, but then by the 30s, you start to see, some pretty cool cars being made, convertibles, and ones with bigger engines. By the 50s and 60s, you get into the muscle cars. Some of those brands are still around, like the Mustang, the Corvette. Those stood the test of time. Okay? They brought the T-Bird back, right, from the 50s, the Thunderbird. We got any muscle head, car head, gear heads, I think we call them these days, like cars. So I don't know. I think they're awesome, and they provide an immense amount of freedom in our lives. Automobiles do, and I'd hate for them to go away. Okay, but then, guys, using the same technology that Ford did with the assembly line and interchangeable parts, radio, phonograph, refrigerator, iron, toaster, washing machines, vacuum cleaners, going to roll off the assembly line by the tens of millions. Okay, that means jobs. That means economic growth. And then motion and sound pictures, guys. You used to be able to go to the movies for a nickel. My dad was growing up, he talked about it, because my dad was born in 1929. To go to the movies for a nickel, buy a candy bar for a nickel. Okay? Great. Then a little bit later, in the 40s, it was 25 cents. But guys, more than half the population was going to the movies weekly. Everybody was going to the movies. So they didn't have to charge that much. You know what I mean? Now you got these Hollywood people that make all this money in the movies, right? And so it costs more, and got all the executives. Yeah. But anyhow, but think about this, like, you open a book and you see the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France, right? You've seen pictures of it, you've seen paintings of it, and then you go to the theater and you can see it, and people moving around, going up the stairs and stuff like that. For the first time, it kind of opened up, like the beach. You've seen pictures of the beach. Never been to the beach, but now you can see it and hear the waves coming in. Like, that's the beach, right? So it was kind of cool. There was a lot of new inventions. And then we made some really good advances in health and education. We brought diseases under control, like typhoid fever. Diphtheria is nasty, dude. Your esophagus swells up real big and you can't swallow. Can't swallow, so you're going to starve to death. Not good, okay? And then the measles, okay, which usually accompanied with a heavy fever, which can be a killer, okay? Education. Guys, we spent more as a nation on education than the rest of the world combined in 1920. Free education through high school, and then all the colleges and universities that we have in this country, which are hundreds, thousands. We spent a lot of money on education. That's going to really help propel us to a world power, okay, both economically and militarily. Okay, so really good here. Like this picture here, graph is life expectancy. Life expectancy 1860 was 42 years old in the United States. I'd be gone. Okay. Now, by 1920, we see a jump of about 6 or 7 years just in that decade. Okay, and then continual growth in life expectancy. And guess what we've done now? We've leveled off. In fact, last year, life expectancy declined for the first time in more than a century by a few days. Not by years, but by a few days. Okay. So we've really kind of leveled off. And we'll see what happens with medical advances and so forth. We live longer. I don't know. Only so much the human body can endure. This is a 1920s toaster. So you would like flip this up, put the bread in there. There's a heating element in there. Don't have the pop-up ones yet, but that's a good example of the 1920s. And then this is a graph on the measles. Starting in 1960, in 63, there were close to 500,000 people that got the measles. They got the vaccine in 64. You can see the number of measles cases drop dramatically. Okay. Now the measles can be deadly, but we've almost eradicated it. We've had a little uptick over the last couple of years because people are now vaccinating their kids with measles. But I can pretty much guarantee there's only one person in this room that's ever had the measles. Yeah. When I was 5. And you guys have the chicken pox. Just one. So out of 3 classes today, it's 5 people that had the chicken pox. When I was a kid, ask your parents about this. If somebody got the chicken pox, they would have a chicken pox party and bring the kids from the neighborhood over to that house with the kid with the chicken pox, so that the kids would all get it. Because you don't want the chicken pox when you're an adult. It can kill you. As a child, it's not that big of a deal. You just got all these freaking splotches all over your body. It's kind of nasty. The measles is like chicken pox on steroids. Like I wish I could find the picture of my mom, but my face is just colored. Splotches. I still have few scars from that. Do you have any scars from chicken pox? You didn't pick at the sores. It's disgusting. Okay. All right. We'll pick up from there tomorrow. Okay. Have a good day, guys.